Yes, we're gonna stay in Europe a little bit, and obviously we're gonna stay in the topic of climate and global governance. She's been mentioned before. Jennifer Lee Morgan is not going to be here today with us because she couldn't make it, but she really tried, and she sent us a video. Jennifer Lee Morgan, most of you know it, she's State Secretary and Special Envoy for International Climate Action at the Federal Foreign Office. And yeah, she's gonna talk to us about global governments. Let's hear what she's gonna say.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this important issue. Unfortunately, I can't be with you in person as I'll be in New York for the UNGA week preparing for COP27. I would like to make 3 points in my talk. First, the climate crisis is the decisive crisis of our generation of decision makers that we have to solve. Second, we can only do this if we go for transformational change and radical cooperation. And third, international climate diplomacy can be a crucial lever for a global transformation to a net zero resilient economy that provides huge challenges and opportunities for all of you. There's no doubt that the climate crisis is the meta crisis for our generation to deal with. It is a key threat to human security, it is a conflict multiplier, and it is shaking the very ground on which our economic prosperity, our supply chains, and our development pathway are built upon. There is no business as usual economy anymore that we can fall back on. And if we fail to bend the curve of emissions, we are heading straight into a 2.7 degree Celsius world with absolutely disastrous consequences. If we want to maintain our prosperity and enable others to live a life in peace and dignity, the zero carbon resilient pathway, it's the only chance we've got. We're living in a time of massive change, whether it be the geopolitical tectonic plates that are shifting around us, or the climate impact tectonic plates arising from extreme events we experience or we see almost every day now in our own countries or in the news. And there are also the manifold geopolitical implications of the climate crisis itself. Resource conflicts over water, food, energy, triggering humanitarian crises, migration, inequality, and instability. And there are the geopolitical implications of the economic transformation. Power constellations will shift due to changed access to energy. New alliances, trade, and investment patterns will ensue. And instead of natural resources, technology, innovation, and access to critical raw materials will determine global influence. This implies new conflicts, new opportunities, and a new geopolitical and geoeconomic playing field. This leads me to my second point. If we want to master the double challenge of the climate crisis and energy security, we need a truly transformational approach. The global transition to a net zero economy is a strategic priority for us. It is the precondition to keep our stability, our security, and our prosperity in the decades ahead. And so to make the net zero economy a reality, we need you. We need your ideas, we need your investment, your expertise on foreign markets, and your courage. We must do no less than transform the world's economy to net zero in short time. This requires considerable, massive investment. And the private sector can and must be a driver of systemic change. So let's work together, hand in hand, to shape the conditions at home and abroad. This requires that from the political side, we need to do our homework. As public and private finance flows for fossil fuels are still greater than those for climate adaptation and mitigation, renewable energy. So more needs to be done to make progress on greening investments and shifting financial flows, creating enabling policy environments across the world to facilitate portfolio shifts, ensuring policy clarity to avoid stranded assets, and de-risking investments in zero carbon projects. This is particularly important in developing and emerging economies, where mobilizing private climate finance is lagging behind substantially. Central banks, private banks, but also multilateral development banks have a catalytic role to play in mobilizing private climate finance. And we encourage close collaboration between MDDBs and the private sector. Trade policy is another key enabler for climate and sustainability. And the new approach in bilateral trade agreements, like placing the Paris Agreement as an essential element in all EU agreements, is a big step forward. We are working on adjusting German export credit and investment guarantees in order to bring these on a 1.5 degrees C consistent path and to increase incentives for 1.5 aligned projects. One thing is clear. We cannot succeed on our own. We need partners and international alliances with a range of countries and stakeholders. And we want to work with those who understand this moment in history and are ready to forge forward together. And we have to build incentives for others to join on eye level with us. So we in the Foreign Office, we're using all foreign policy instruments in our hands at our disposal. Multilateral agreements and institutions, plurilateral initiatives such as the multi-donor frameworks like the Just Energy Transition Partnerships, bilateral cooperation, trade, investment, and public diplomacy. And my third and final point, the UNFCCC process is an important component of our climate foreign policy because international climate diplomacy can and must work as a driving force for the global economic transition to the net zero resilient economy. Its decision sends signals to markets, moves countries forward together. But, as I said, these are times of tectonic shifts. You ask if good cops keep power politics in check. Well, let me put it this way. Yes, that is possible, but only when we and others listen and work with those who have the most to lose if we do not move forward enough. Their voices in the UNFCCC, from my perspective, are of the utmost importance. They help us collectively hold to the system that keeps us all safe and also drives us forward to a net zero economy. Germany can be a bridge builder in the COP negotiations and on the global stage and help us all navigate the challenging, shifting tectonic plates in a way that provides climate justice to the most vulnerable, clear signals to business for investment priorities, and drives emissions down quickly to avoid even more dramatic impacts and keep the 1.5 goal in sight. Together, we must shape the transition to a global zero-carbon economy in a way that leaves no one behind if we want to protect our core national interests, our security, our supply chains, and the competitiveness of our industry, and keep our people safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer Lee Morgan.